All right, so let's dive deeper into what Mr. Trump's released tax returns really show on a sort of financial level. To break this down, we have Bruce Dubinksy joining us now. He's a forensic accountant and the founder of Dubinksy Consulting. Bruce, once again, thank you for coming here. First off, is there anything released in this tax return that really, raises red flags for you?
Well, great to be here with you today, Jared. So first of all, as people have been discussing, these tax returns are very complex. The first tax return I opened this morning took me a while to get through, 350 pages. That was the 2020 tax return for Donald Trump individually and Melania. So there's a lot in there. It's packed with information that flow from about 100 different entities that flow into there. There was another business tax return that was released at the same time that had 250 pages in it. So it's going to take some time to get through there. But as far as red flags, nothing jumped out as a red flag. I had some questions that really can't be answered from just looking at the tax returns per se. For instance, there were deductions for the Trump's airplane and aviation businesses. There's no backup to what those deductions were. You wouldn't see the backup on a tax return. That would be in work papers, either in an IRS audit file or when Trump had his tax return prepared, the preparers would have that information. So there's a lot of questions when you look at the numbers there to go through. That it's going to take some time to dig through those and get some answers. But I do have some questions about the reporting.
And you were kind of talking about the preparation there. I mean, it's no secret that knowing the ins and outs of tax law is not something that a lot of folks really are well versed in. But if you get someone who does know what they're doing, you can potentially legally avoid paying a lot of money in taxes. Any evidence of that as well?
Well, I think there's a lot of evidence of that. When you look at the current tax code, there's about 9,800 tax code sections. I think that's about 7,000 pages of tax code. And so that's complicated in and of itself. When you have a professional tax preparer, as President Trump had, you can take advantage of those tax code sections and the loopholes. If you call them loopholes, they're legal. And there's evidence in his return. He took a lot of depreciation deductions on his real estate ventures, and continued to generate those deductions, and that offsets other income, and that's totally legal to do. So again, I think that makes sense.
Something we've heard the former president talk about a lot. We heard him say it in that video that he released today, is just how successful he is as a business person. In your professional opinion, do these returns really reflect that? Can you see his success in business here?
Well, I think there's some evidence of the success. He's got a lot of different real estate entities. Some were generating millions of dollars of income. Some have depreciation, creating losses. He's got quite a bit of interest income and dividend income. If you do a back of the napkin calculation, I think in 2020, that's probably equivalent to about $500 million of just net worth in liquid assets. So I think there's some evidence of that, but it's hard to tell just looking at a tax return how successful somebody is. There might be 3 ventures that are very successful. There might be a venture that's not so successful. But I think on par, when you look at everything in the tax return in total, I think it does paint a picture of a very complicated business venture system that Donald Trump was running. And some of those were successful, and some we know in the past he's filed bankruptcy on some entities in the past. But I think all in all, it does show some evidence that he's a successful businessman in his own right.
Dr. Bruce Dubinksy, thank you so much.
Thank you.